Janome.
Hey everybody, my name is Natalie Barnes and I'm the owner of Beyond the Reef Patterns. You are correct. I have the best job in the world. I get to design fabric and I get to design quilt patterns. Now, why do you want to have somebody in the world that designs quilt patterns? Well, so that you can make things for people that you love and take the time and effort to just clear your head a little bit, sit in front of your sewing machine and make something beautiful. You can make masks, which a lot of people have done most recently. You can make towels for your kitchen. You can make pillows. You can make garments. There's so many things that you can do once you have the basics down. And so for this series, we are going to start with the basics. I mean the basics. Fabric is sold by the yard. You can buy increments of a yard, and that would be a half yard, that would be a quarter yard, or if you're a quilter, you're gonna buy things by the fat quarter. What the heck is a fat quarter? We're gonna figure all that out in this series. But basically, you're going to need fabric, thread, and a machine, and an idea. I know, you want to know why they call it a fat quarter right away, right? Okay, well, let's talk about fabric. Fabric starts out being manufactured and they put it on a roll. And we'll talk about the manufacturing process a little bit later, but it starts out in a roll like this. And then people called converters or fabricators will go ahead and take that, they will double fold it, and they will put it on what's called a bolt. Fabric is usually 42 to 44 inches wide. And when it's folded in half, it's then 20 to 22 inches wide. When you take a half yard of that fabric, right, 18 inches by 20 to 22, and you cut that along the fold line, you end up with half of a yard. Well, what's a half of a yard? It's a quarter of a yard. When it's cut this way, it's more usable than if it's just 9 inches by 44 inches, right? So quilters call that a fat quarter. You can buy whole collections of fabrics in what they call fat quarter bundles. This is a Wyndham Fabrics fat quarter bundle called Ariel. This is almost ready to ship to shops. It is not available yet, but because I happen to design fabric for Wyndham, I have a little sneak peek of this fabric line Ariel. What you'll see is that when you purchase a fat quarter bundle of a lot of different colors like this, because it's all been designed by the same person, it's all designed to go together and to coordinate. So starting out a project like a quilt or something that you want to make like a bag or a pillow, something like that, is always good to start when you're a beginner by purchasing a whole line of fabric that's been coordinated by the designer. In this case, this is Tamara Kate. So that is a fat quarter bundle. That's why they call it a fat quarter, because you don't want a skinny quarter of a yard. You want to be able to have a piece that you can actually make something out of or you can use. You're going to need thread, and your thread should match what you're going to be sewing. So when we're talking about quilts, we're talking about quilting cotton. The different grades of cotton fabrics we'll get into a little bit later. This is just the primer, just the beginning. I mean, we have to go through everything in the whole table and all the stuff that you don't see that's to the left and to the right of me. We're going to go through it all, but I wanted to give you just a little bit of a hint. So in that quilting cotton, you're going to want to have some high quality quilting cotton and cotton thread that matches that quilting cotton. Did I say quilting cotton too many times? Well, it's because I wanted to drive the point home. Make sure that you are buying high quality fabric, the best that you can. And the same thing with thread. If you're going to put all of that time and effort into something, you're going to want to make sure that you use a great thread to coordinate with that. I happen to be what they call an aura philosopher, which means I'm trained by Aurifil Threads to be able to talk at length about threads, how they're made, why they're called certain things, and what the benefits are of certain threads. I'm not going to talk about that today either, but you want to make sure that you use a high quality thread that's not going to produce a lot of lint and that's strong. So for me, that's Aurifil thread. Let's talk a little bit about sewing machines. I've chosen a Janome HD9 as my primary machine. And I've chosen this machine because it is a mechanical machine and it's a straight stitch machine. I think from the time that I took my first home ec class, I've probably always sewn on a mechanical machine. No computer screen, no embroidery, no special effects. But that's for me and for what I've been doing in my sewing and quilting life. You have to pick the machine that's right for you. As far as the manufacturer goes, I think that Janome is a responsible manufacturer and they do a great job. They do a great job of being there and servicing and taking care of their customers as well. When you buy a machine, you're really buying something that you can probably pass on to family members. You're buying something that's going to allow you to spend time with your kids or your grandkids even, teaching them how to sew. Back in the turn of the century, when portraits like this were being made, people surrounded themselves with the things that were most important to them. This family, I think, has some livestock and actually a beautiful table out front, and multi-generational group is portrayed in this picture. But quite often you'll see in old photographs like this in the turn of the century, 1800s, you will see a sewing machine as a part of what's important to them. And to this day, I think sewing machines are still important. I chose an HD9 because I sew a tremendous amount, I sew quickly, and I have the ability to sew through a lot of different layers of different substrates, and so the HD9 is perfect for my professional use. You might take a look at, however, something called an HD3000. HD3000, I almost said 3300. HD3000 HD still stands for heavy duty, and it's a really good straight stitch machine. It also has actually a series of different stitches on it. So take a look at Janome.com, look at the different machines that they have available, and just do your homework. People say, oh, well, you can go to a swap meet or you can go to an antique store and buy an old machine, and you can buy a great, solid, sturdy metal machine, but I would recommend it for someone who is familiar with sewing machines. You are going to probably need to know what kind of bobbin that has, if it has the bobbin casing in it, where you can find a bobbin casing or bobbins for a machine that's that much older, how you're going to care for it and how you may need to do some maintenance on it, how to oil that machine. And so I might suggest that you take a look at Janome.com and take a look at their HD3000 or any of their other machines and start there. They have a really good distributor network of people across the nation, actually across the globe, and so you'll be able to find something that you can use on your dining room table and that you can carry around maybe to your grandkids' home and use that. So that is my 2 cents on sewing machines. So I hope that this first primer has been a good one. We're going to talk a little bit more about thread, how it's made, why it's made certain ways, and why you want certain threads for certain projects. We're going to talk about how to cut and what to use to cut and what all this whole stack of rulers is, why you need a ruler, why you've got things like this now, when in reality, when I was in high school, I was actually cutting out cereal boxes and tracing around them. All of this is going to give you better success. So we're going to talk about those tools as well. We're going to talk about fun things like pin cushions, making pin cushions, and giving pin cushions as gifts. We're going to talk about gift giving when it comes to making kitchen towels, or making pillows, or even making garments. But for now, I wanted to just start with the basics. Make sure that you find the perfect sewing machine for you and go to the experts. They'll help you with that. Make sure that you have great quality fabric so that when you wash it, it doesn't just all fall apart. And make sure that you have a thread that's going to match that fabric and that's going to be strong enough to hold whatever you make together, because, well, don't we want that to happen? Join us next time, and we're going to start talking about how to measure and cut fabric. We're going to do some very simple projects. I'm going to give you some very simple basics to do and give you some tips and tricks about that whole stack of cutting tools over there. Thanks so much for joining us, and welcome to Stitch. Tune in for the next episode, because, you know, what are you going to do next? And I know that a lot of you in these times have made a lot of masks. Eventually, you have to decide that you want to make some other things for your loved ones. Not that this isn't a good thing to make, but there's so many other things that you can make. There's so many things that you can do. So many things to delight those that you love.